There it is. Okay, folks, welcome to today's video stream tutorial modeling session. I'm Jamie from the JJNOA 3D channel, and today the subject is going to be Ash Ketchum, the Pokemon trainer. So we've been modelling Pokemon up until now, and I think I had a commenter, I think it was on the live chat, that was saying maybe give Ash Ketchum a go, and then you can, do a cool render of all the Pokemon together. And I thought, actually, that sounds like fun. I haven't modelled a human character in a while, so hopefully that's not too much of an issue. It is a very anime character, so it's not we're not worried too much about realistic proportions and those sort of things, and realistic details. Maybe proportions, yes, generally. The head's usually a bit bigger on an anime character. Excuse me. So we've got that to sort of think about. But otherwise, the face is generally quite smooth. There's no wrinkles like furrowed brow, or like wrinkles along the forehead. There's no like lines that go around the mouth, like for the cheeks and things. There's not really even eyelids that have like creases. I mean, it depends on the character as well, depending on how much detail there is. But in general, anime characters are less detailed in the facial details. They have their own. Each character obviously has different proportions. That makes them a unique character. But their costumes tend to be more character defining, I think. So as you can see, we're in the latest version of Blender, which I think actually came out today. My Steam, I've got Blender on Steam, so it just automatically updates when I start up my computer in the morning. So I'm pretty sure it came out today, because I was working in 2.91 yesterday. So yeah, so to get started, we're going to we need some reference. So I have a quick search for Ash Ketchum reference, or Ash Ketchum sete. Got me some pretty good reference. So there is a non-coloured sketch. What's going on? Oh, I'm in the wrong viewport. Okay. So there is a non-coloured, like, just sketch of this portion. So just these three poses, I guess. So, but I did find that someone has come along and they've done a version of him without the backpack and with the backpack. A few different poses to sort of show how the face works. A full-bodied sort of walking pose. How the backpack works. A little close-up of his hands. And they've fully coloured in everything as well. So that's really a nice resource. So that gives us everything we need for textures. You could almost copy this eye. It's a bit low resolution, but you could almost just copy that onto the texture map for a character, and then that would be fine. We might try. I'm thinking about the eyes and the face and things. I think I would still like to have them 3D modelled. We might try and model in so that he can have eyelids that can close, and a little bit of detail like that. We want a fairly simple model for the shape of the mouth, so that it can be made into quite extreme poses. And then the nose, I think we'll play a little bit by ear, because obviously an anime character or a manga character, the art style is a little bit weird when you get a side-on versus any other angle. Because they're not necessarily trying to perfectly recreate a three-dimensional shape, they sort of have a little bit of artistic liberty. So in the side view, he's got a nose that sticks out, and that looks fine. It's fairly simple, not much detail to it. But in any other view, that nose is much smaller. It's a dinky little nose that barely sticks out very far at all. In the front, it's just a single little line just to represent where the nose is. So we've got to keep that in mind, that make sure that when we're modelling that nose, to make sure that it does represent how the character should look in all angles, not just in the side view. So I think we'll start by, we'll just hide that cube for right now. So we're on the side view at the moment, so we move him in the Y, and we come to here, turn on the opacity, and just bring that down whilst we're modelling. Probably a bit further, something like that. We'll aim to get, so his feet, I mean, he's generally pretty close as far as where so the bottom of the foot here is pretty much the same as the bottom of the foot here, so that's nice. Even though he's at standing at a slight angle, here it looks like this his right foot is slightly further back. On this image, it looks like that same foot is slightly further forward, so the reference doesn't match particularly well. But the top of the hat comes to pretty much the same point on there as well, so that's nice. Shift D, SZ 90. Oh no, RZ 90. And then in the front view, we can line that up. And that's actually we want to go RZ 180. Oh, RZ 180. There we go. And then just move that across in the X to roughly the midpoint. It's hard to tell exactly where his midpoint is, because the center of his chin is not the center of his neck. So that if we line up with that sort of more the center of the neck, roughly where the nose is, that looks pretty central to the mouth, but that chin is slightly off to the side now. But that looks, I mean, we'll go with that for now. Now I'm just thinking about how we're going to actually model this guy. So let's bring in the cube. And let's go. Okay. So I might just get a mirror set up just by deleting the vertices on the left side after a loop cut. And then chuck a mirror on with clipping. So now we can do this and edit both sides at the same time. And I think we'll get the general proportions of his torso and then work from there. So this jacket is hanging off the front of him, so we want to make sure that we're not trying to model to the jacket, but model to his body shape. Being a male character, he will have slightly broader shoulders than he will have at his hips, but not by a lot. He's not a particularly old male character. I think he's supposed to be roughly the age of 10. I know he is at the start of the show that he's a 10-year-old boy and he's just getting his first Pokemon and stuff, but the show's been going on for like 20 years now, so maybe 25 years. So it's sort of hard to say exactly what age he's supposed to be. And they've changed his character design quite a lot over the years. But we'll just sort of work from what we're seeing in the reference. So, and an almost teenage boy, I think that's his sort of age. And then we'll add in a little bit of shape. Just a little bit of roundness there. And then if we add in a loop cut here, we can actually select all of that, deselect this, and then maybe just bring this in on the X a bit. That creates a sort of a rounded torso. Let's move this reference out of the way, just along the X-axis. This one along the Y-axis, there we go. So we've got a fairly rounded looking torso. Polygons are the similar size to each other. We could maybe, let's slide that up a little bit, get in another set of polygons there. Tiny bit higher. Yeah, about there. Okay. Now, generally it can be difficult to get without spending a bit of time figuring certain things out. It can be difficult to get the legs to come off the body correctly. Generally, I think there's a couple of edge loops that we want. I think we'll get most of them if we just extrude this and then we turn off clipping and then extrude. Yeah. So then we get a loop that comes around the leg. And we can start to think about, so before I make this, like commit to this, do I want to add a loop down the middle of the body that's close to the center line? And we can try adding that in. So we add in that and then we select these polygons, extrude them out, and that gives us, we get this loop. And then we also get this through the middle. It creates a nicer separation between the two legs. And it allows us a bit more control, so I think I will keep that. So then you do something like this, move that out of the way. So this is where you can start to sort of model in, if you're going into that much detail, the glutes, the butt cheeks, those sort of things. I don't want that much detail, and I'm not, you know, I feel like I have already overthought it. So let's undo, because we've still got some undos left. We can rework some topology later if we need to. But let's just extrude down and then re-enable clipping. And let's select all of these. I'll have that. And I haven't imported my preferences, so I'll need to enable a couple of add-ons. I like the Loop Tools add-on. We'll have that installed. Okay. So now we can just turn that into a circle, quickly turn off clipping, bring that across the center line. And we can sort of scale up to get, we want just a little bit less than this outline, because the jeans or the pants that he's wearing are fairly conforming to his body shape. So they're not super loose, they're a little bit loose, but not super loose. Obviously the bottom of his crotch actually starts down here, so we need to move that down. We'll add in an extra loop there. His knee looks to be roughly here. And then we can extrude the rest of the leg down to where the foot is. Something like that. Yeah. Now this leg here is actually sort of further back. The leg that's slightly obscured actually looks to be a better reference for a standard pose, so we'll keep that sort of lined up there. Yeah, that's a thought I have had, Animarium 124. I will consider it, depending on the success of this model, I suppose. And if it works out as well as I was hoping. And we'll extrude down where we'll start the foot later on. So his pose is fairly wide at the moment, his stance. It's very simple looking still, so there's not much shape or design into that yet. That's okay. We can also start the arm. So we'll extrude these polygons out. And then we can select these ones here. We can actually go to the top and go to Loop Tools and then Circle. Now that will mess things up, well, a lot more than I was expecting. So if we bring that out and rotate, that has not gone very well at all. So what I was expecting to happen is basically that goes in there and it becomes more of a circle. Just see if we can make that happen. I'm not selecting anything else. Okay, that's better. So encouraging it into the shape that you want first is actually a good idea. And then the arm comes off from about there. It's fairly skinny. Then we can start to bring the shoulder back here. And bring some of these vertices down into the correct positions now. So now we've actually got a shoulder joint in place. What we'll do, we'll extrude this arm off down to where the elbow is. Scale that down a bit. He does have skinny arms. And then we can start to sort of push this back to being not quite a unusual shape. Oh wow. So just by selecting those two and scaling out, we can get a bit better definition. Now I think we need to do this all the way down. Just scale these outside edges in. That was looking a bit huge. Yeah, that's better. Okay. So down to the wrist, which is actually covered, so that's kind of nice. So when we get to modelling the hands, we can be a little bit sneaky and hide some bad geometry underneath this wrist cover, which can just be like a cylinder or a donut. Now his proportions are looking off to me. So I'm just going to try and fix that a little bit. not liking the extremely wide stance that we've got him in, so I'm just going to lower that. Yeah, this is where the limited detail of the model that we've currently got is starting to become an issue. So we might block in. He's got fairly chunky shoes. They're fairly standard looking sneakers. We want to go vertices. There we go. I've got a a toe that comes around. And the back generally comes out a bit. Something like that. And they're generally a bit wider. So scale on the X. Something like that. I wasn't actually lining up with any reference there, but it's lined up a little bit with that one. Sort of a very basic foot shape. He is wearing shoes, so that does make it slightly easier. In that we don't really have to worry about the detail of the feet. I think I'm getting too stuck in those details. And his pants sort of come down and connect with his boots or shoes in a funny way, so that's something to think about. God, those arms are very skinny. Let's see how they look in the side view. I mean, it almost matches up. Maybe that's a bit closer. It's hard to tell because the two lines that are black there are sort of merging. Yeah, about there. I think this shoulder joint is not going super well. I think I'm asking for too much from the very small amount of geometry that we've got so far. So let's move a little bit on and just get the head blocked in as well. So that's a neck. Okay. Now his shoulder. Yeah, it almost looks like it should be further back. Let's try and do something weird. Scale that down a bit. Rotate it, bring it back. It's a bit closer. About there. So his shoulders can bulge out a bit from the center line of his back. That's not a problem. Yeah. It's a little bit too far in. Come out a bit. Now, I haven't studied the edge loops of a human body in a while, and I'm feeling that's where I'm currently experiencing a limitation. So I'm just going to do a little Google for some reference and see what we can come up with. Human 3D model loops. Here we go. So there's some very detailed reference. There's one, I think. There's a little bit actually of stuff that's potentially usable. That's just so tiny that I can't see it. Let's enlarge that. Yeah. Okay. And then that one is very simplistic. I think I'll go for the sort of medium detail. I'm just going to save that into my Ash folder. And I mean, we can even just use PureRef, and I will just grab the image that I was looking at. Oop. Chuck that into PureRef. And I will show you guys what I'm talking about. So the loops for the general body, which I've basically got none of in, they help you to get, even if it's a stylized character like Ash or any anime character, they do help you to get the I could definitely do Misty at another time. Even like, so once I've got this body down, we can then adapt it to make other bodies. But currently it's not in a position to do anything. So you'll see in the crotch area, we've got polygons that aren't connected to the legs that go straight down the middle. And then we've got the legs that are coming off, and they're extruded down from, like, there's, so if there's a cross section, you'd see, so there's a loop here, and then if you kept extruding down, there'd be a loop across here, which includes these polygons. And if you extruded down again, there'd be a loop across here. But what they've done is they've basically extruded that down and then erased some polygons out of this corner and then extruded the legs out. So if we've already got, pretend we've got high detail legs that are, you know, really, the legs are looking great. So we'll work towards patching together the correct topology. So we'll use V, and I think I did it twice. So I'll select these vertices here. I'll do V to separate. And then I can just move this bit of geometry just out of the way. And then, so what we're looking at, first we want to create that center line. And I think for me, it's I needed the confidence to know that I should be doing this. And this is just it's a structure I haven't modeled in a while. So I'm a little bit out of practice. And by structure, I mean the human body. So there are certain ways to do certain things that make it much easier. So now we've got, by edge cutting there, we've got the vertices in place. We've actually got that section that, for instance, say if I remove those and then say I fill this in. Now we've got a triangle there, so we would want some, oh, if I can get it to line up properly, just something in here, and then I have to fill that. So now the example is, if I extrude down, and I'll turn clipping back on for a moment. If I extrude down, then we've come, so that's where we were, and we've just extruded this portion down. Now we're not doing that much detail as far as a character model, so I'm not going to extrude down anymore. But then if we take these polygons here and delete them, then we've got that the gap between the thighs, or where the legs are, and we've got the polygons that we would then want to connect up to the legs. Now we may want to move these out on the X a little bit. Maybe move these down on the Z, just to smooth things out a bit. You could possibly bring this back on the Y. And then you would look at literally extruding this out, and then your leg coming from here. Now this is obviously much smoother, so we want to make sure that we're looking at the correct sort of shapes as well. And it does come up sort of around to where the hips are as well. So this line of edges. So we want to try and incorporate that. Now, I'm thinking we're probably just going to ditch this leg, because we've got 1, 2, 3 connecting. And then we've got one here that needs to connect, say there. This one connects to the next one. This one connects to the next one, and we're already way off. And then we've got 2 more vertices here that got nothing to connect to. So that's not going to bridge. We can even count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yeah, we can do one or two things at this juncture, I suppose. We can add in a loop here, which actually, that's just a center loop down the whole leg. Let's keep that. That's going to make things a bit easier. Now there are different merging solutions. You could turn to snapping and go to vertex, and keep your mouse close to the vertex, press G, hold down Control, and then move it to the vertex that you want to snap it to and merge with. And then you select the two and go M, and you can do merge by distance. And so down here you can see we've removed one vertex. So that is now one vertex. There's not two there anymore. So if I just left click once on the vertex, I'm only selecting the one. I'm going to just quickly undo. There's another option where you can select this vertex and then this vertex and do M and do at last. Or you can select this vertex and then this vertex and do at first. And that's going to tell, that's your way of telling Blender which vertex you want to use. I tend to do last, I think. I go, I want to move this one here. So then I do first, do merge to last. And that's a sort of a thought process or a workflow that tends to work for me. It's definitely for the blocking stages where things are still early on and not yet so detailed that doing a few merges isn't a big deal. But if you had a lot of detail in there, then it would be quite a bit more difficult. Now we might not want this gap between his legs to be so extreme. Something like that maybe. And we do have this sort of hip situation going on that we need to accommodate for. But then if you are doing a character that has, for example, a big butt, You can use an edge loop in here to then bring that booty out. I'm not too worried about that with Ash. I will bring it out a little bit just by using the polygons that are already there. Just sort of more creating a smooth body rather than trying to create a big booty. GY, bring that in. This is sort of where a little bit of maturity is required when you're modelling a character, because right now we're spending a lot of time looking at Ash's crotch, but if you don't, it's going to look bad as it did previously. So now it looks more like a humanoid sort of area rather than a weird stick figure that has no definition to its body. And this loop allows us to bend the leg in a more realistic way. So when if you want to bring his knees up, when you then say you want him to be kneeling or something like this, then you can have this loop allows you to sort of bring the body up. Obviously there's a knee there, so then that's sort of like that, and you have a bit more geometry in there that doesn't move as much, and you got legs that can sit, and that's really a rough way of showing how that works, but that's how you get into a pose with bones and stuff. And obviously, so when you've got the bones in and you're using the weights, the weight painting and that sort of stuff, you'll move these vertices more, and then you'll move these vertices a little bit with that knee coming up, and that allows all of these vertices to sort of come together and pinch up rather than creating a big mess. So that's how that works. And then moving up the body, we want to have, which we kind of do, we want to have an edge loop that goes across the chest and across near the bottom of where the arm is coming out and becoming an arm along the shoulder. So we've got that here. We could probably do with another edge loop in there. Might just bring this neck down a little bit. It's looking weird. It's a bit better. And then we need a edge loop that is coming down, and so it's coming across and it goes underneath and comes up and back again. Now to cut that in would be difficult, but I think looking at the way things are structured, I think if we select these vertices here, which is basically that loop, we could try one of two things. We'll try a Control B to bevel. So that's created basically that structure. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. The other option is to select this and then hold, press V, and lets you tear. And then, yeah, with that selected, you can then Alt Shift left click that loop, and then just search for the Bridge Edge Loops command, and that will basically do the same thing. Now with the bevel, it does seem to make sure we got it selected. It does conform to the model that you've already got a bit better, so that's handy. And honestly, I think that needs a loop cut through the middle, and then we'll cheat it a little bit, select all of this, and it's a big loop cutty mess. And we'll go to Vertex, Smooth Vertices. I'm going to right click, add that to my quick favorites. Ooh. Oh, that's Slide. remove from quick favorites. Smooth vertices. Add to quick favorites. There we go. And then I can just hit that a few times. Now that tends to lose you volume, but we've got some nice smooth looking edge loops now. So if we scale up a bit, and even do an Alt S to increase the volume, and then just rearrange things a little bit in a way that more closely follow the model. We've now got an edge loop that goes around under the arm. Which is here. Okay. Hello, my dear. Can I help you?
Could you please pass me the Switch game case, please?
Oh, sure.
I want to play Mario Kart.
That's fine, my love.
Also, I love the comments that you've gotten so far.
Can you do Misty?
Can you do Brock and Misty? Yeah, it's nice covering it up. I know what you want.
Hey, Misty's a fan favourite.
She sure is. What's that? Between the teenage and like early 20s age range of boys? Yeah, no. Misty, never. What? Fan favourite. Talia and I are having a good giggle about that.
Okay. So just touch that up. Just trying to get things into a smoother place. Just because we've got this central line doesn't mean it has to stay dead in the center. We can use it to add definition to the rest of the model rather than just having a weird central thing. I think we need to we'll bring this down a bit, that down a bit. We've got, okay, so what I'm seeing, or not seeing, is this needs to come down a bit. Okay, and that can come there, and then that's a bit more controlled, I suppose is the word to use. So we've got a loop. If I check, we've got a loop there. I can even go to polygon mode and do an Alt select. So we've got the loop that goes around the arm, and then we've got a loop that goes, this one, goes around and underneath the arm. That goes around there. Now it's a little bit, not quite exactly the same. Like we could use, a little bit more geometry in certain places. We've got, on the higher quality model with more polygons, we've got one more edge loop basically either side of that one, and then we're actually extruding up along the next row to where the neck is. So we're fairly close to that with much less polygons. So I don't want to go too crazy. Yeah. Now that's starting to look, just by adding the correct loops in, that's actually starting to look much better to me. I think I'll add in a little hand thing. Maybe we'll do, just looking at the hand references that we've got. So we've got these two that are, that's sort of a top down at a funny angle sort of view. Well, I suppose based on the camera, it's sort of like that. It's weird. It's not quite a top view. That one's sort of the back of his hand. that one seems to be fairly straight on for where his actual, the shape of his actual hand is. So we might add in a cube. And sort of place that in roughly the right place. And we've got clipping happening. Actually move that out of the way now. Okay. And we'll have the hand flat pointing down. We won't have it out at an angle until after we've modelled the hand, and then we can sort of put it into a more standard pose. I mean, for now we're just sort of having a rough shape. Now this arm is not matching the reference. I think I want it to match a bit closer, so I will try to bring that to happen. If I press O and select and just do a proportional move, maybe on this vertex, we can start to move that shoulder closer to where it is. There we go. His shoulders are quite far back. Okay, it's looking better. And then we've got little boxes for where the hands will be. Yeah, I'm just going to leave them like that for now, but that just helps to sort of visualize what's happening. So then we want a head. Should we do... No, let's do the head. We can do things like joints a bit later. Yeah, and then you get into this mess, which is really hard to see on this picture, so we're not going to worry too much about it, although it does... Okay, it shows a couple of things. So you got like a superhero mask around the eyes that's not connected through the middle, and then you got circles around the eyes. I think that's something we can definitely include. And then you've got... yeah, Psyduck reference was tough. Much happier with this Domingo's. So the purple is just around the mouth. We've got a little bit for the nose, which we might end up incorporating. And then the green is across the nose and around the mouth. So that's something to think about. And something that's not usually shown is a loop that I have recently been noticing. That is already something that I was making in previous models, and other people have been making. It's actually like, it's hard to exactly tell. I think it's this one here. So it goes across the lip, or it might be up here, or it might not even be on this model. But there's actually, it can help to separate things and keep things a bit more workable for certain details and things. There's a loop that you can get in that goes across the top of the mouth and around the back of the head, basically. I find that it just helps to keep things separated. It helps to give a bit more definition in the upper lip, especially, and it helps to keep things aligned. Not sure how. It's one of those weird magic loops, sort of similar in function to the loop the mask that goes around the eyes. It's one that, until you sort of learn about it and think about it, it's not something that you think that you would think would be there, but it's actually a very helpful loop. Now for the head, I think, make sure I'm actually able to select things in Blender. I think I don't want to extrude up because that just feels weird. Add in a cube. We'll add in a separate object. Add in a cube. We'll do a Control 2 and apply the subdivision modifier. Then go to edit mode, delete this half of the vertices. So we've just got that half. And mirror and turn on clipping. And then move the object roughly into position. Even scale it down. Because I scaled in object mode, I do want to do an Control A and apply the scale, just so it doesn't mess things up later on. But that's roughly the size of his head. His cap sort of sits on top. And he's got a lot of hair and stuff. So he's sort of a bit more like that. And a little bit more, a bit more like that. So that's roughly the shape and size of his head. And if you know much about anatomy, you'll know that the type of character, you count how many heads tall they are. So you can sort of see that Ash is roughly here. That's about, just trying to find a measurement on my hand that matches that. If I zoom in a little bit, yeah, 2 fingers wide. So 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, like probably 4.5, maybe 4.75 heads tall. Whereas like an adult, I think is 8, like a standard human adult that's not a weird caricature or anything like that. That should be 8. So that's, something to keep in mind. It means it's a more childish type of character. It means that's the proportions. So bear that in mind as you are modelling things and making things look good. That the head is supposed to be looking generally bigger. Partly because he is a younger character, partly because he is a stylized character. So anime characters tend to have bigger heads anyway. So let's start to push and pull these vertices into a state that allows us to have him recognizable as Ash. And I think first of all we want to bring this in on the side. And we'll choose an edge loop. I think it's going to be this one for where the chin is. And we can start to move these up and out of the way. His cranium's not actually quite that big. I mean, depends on how you want to model it, I guess. You could do with the new stuff in, I think it's in 2.92, with the fluid simulation. You could do a very viscous fluid and have a few emitters and things like that. You could possibly have a weird fluid blob model. I haven't looked too much into things like soft bodies. I know they exist, but I'm not sure how to use them. I'm sure you could make a soft body based model that is ditto. Scale that in the Y and bring it forwards a bit. Yeah. So I'm just trying to get an idea. Obviously his hat is not the top of his head, so I'm not going to model his head up like that because that would be weird. But we want to have a generally good looking head model that we will then add details like or accessories like hair and hats to, rather than trying to convince everyone that Ash's head is that big, because it would just look weird. Okay. So that's starting to get there. This vertex is way out of place. think I want a bit more space there, a bit more space there. Now generally you do want an edge loop for the jawline. That is also the comes under the jaw, comes just in front of the ear, or it can be behind the ear depending on how you want to place it. I'll probably just do in front, and then goes all the way like a band around, like my headphones, a band over the top of the head. So I'm going to delete these vertices here. I'm going to edge slide this one forwards a bit, maybe this one as well, a little. And then we're just going to line up with this jawline a bit closer with these vertices. And just check in 3D that it's looking okay in that area. Looking alright. Might want to bring some of these back a little bit as well. Just to try and get that face to feel a bit more natural. Now it does feel quite wide from what I've done there. I'll bring that in a bit. I think, yeah, his actual jaw does come out quite far. So let's sort of try and line that up. Because he is male, so he has a fairly square jaw. It's a little bit pointy. Especially in the chin. I think it's more that the chin is pointy, not that the jaw is pointy. So, yeah, that's looking a bit closer. Just make sure that the line that we're working with is fairly smooth and curved. And then we can add in, I think if we, we can do that trick with the bevel. Control B to bevel. And that gives us a fairly smooth loop that goes across the head. And then we could even select all of these, extrude, come back, and then select those, and F to join. And so then we've got that edge loop that goes along the chin. I might want to just rearrange a little bit, now that we've got that definition in there. And then, depending on the character, depends on how much you want to do building under the chin. His chin does stick out quite a bit, so we will probably come about that far out. So let's select these, extrude back. And then we can also bring that back basically to where the neck is. And then sort of look at how we can build polygons. So we kind of need an extra polygon here. So we could build a polygon there. Oh, F to join. Maybe join these two here, and then we've got 5 polygons there, or 5 vertices there. So then you'd look into either adding a edge here, an edge here, or here. Probably not there. Maybe even here. I think the first choice is the most obvious one. And then we can bring up these a bit. To have that underneath the chin area built in. Now I feel like we're getting a bit crowded up here, so I'm going to move this edge loop and deselect those, edge slide this one back, and then possibly from about there edge slide back as well, so that we can still have the definition down in the chin where we want it, but not so much that it's impacting the rest of the model. Now that's looking probably too far out back there. Okay, Nice general head shape so far. With his hair, I think something that can throw people off is other shapes adding to the silhouette of the character. So the ears and the hair, especially sticking out, gives the impression that Ash has a very wide head, when in reality he has a slightly wide head because it's a bigger head anyway for the size of the character. But then once you add in the hair, it will be it will bring in that sort of extra width to the head that the just the sort of the skin part of the head doesn't actually bring all the way out. I might bring it out a little bit extra because with the reference he's looking pretty much square on, and we're meeting the sort of edge of the head here, but we're not quite meeting it here. So I think I want to come out a little bit extra anyway. So we'll come out on the X with everything selected, and then I'll select sort of the next row, come out on the X a little bit more, and then sort of select that outer section and come out on the X just a little bit more. So that's slightly wider, but not too much. I might soften up the jawline a bit and just bring these in. Maybe bring that one out a bit. Something like that. Now, the mouth and the eyes, we're all going to need. So we can approach how we build the edge loops. So the mask and then the loops here, and the various basically loops within loops within loops. That becomes the nose and the mouth. We can approach that in a couple of different ways. So with the eyes, I think it's probably wise to select these vertices, and we'll extrude, scale, and then so then what we've got here is we've got the mask, so those loops are there, and then we can in the next step we will extrude these polygons in, and then we've got the loops around the eyes that become the eyes, and then we've also got that bit in the middle that is this grey area here that we've got the bit in the middle that we can always add edge loops to if we need to, but we've got that to work with as well. What is that doing? So it's going, I just want to see, so it's going over there, right. So that to me is telling me that we need to possibly just tear that vertice for now. Merge by distance there, because I think I did something weird. There we go. So that will allow us to add detail to the center line if we need to, which I'm expecting to. Now, I didn't need to undo, yeah. Okay, I don't need that eye area extruded yet. Okay. And then merge that by distance. Beautiful. Okay. So let's get the sort of superhero mask in place around the head. So we want to give space to extrude in and add the detail of the eyes. Basically, we just want to have it nice and smooth and not creating too much disturbance to the flow. So now we're at a position where we can go into edit mode, select these faces, and yeah, so we want to bring some of this actually further back in. Okay, that's starting to look a bit closer. Yeah, that's taken a bit of stuff off the side. Might bring that in, bring that in. Lovely, okay. So now we can, yeah, extrude these polygons. And that will create loops around the eyes. With Ash, I think I do want to have his eyes closing. So we're going to need to make eyelids. The tricky part will be how to model that with the way I am modeling. I think we will, let's add in the eye, and then we will separate the eye mesh, and then maybe add an extra loop or two to the model that the eye has been separated from, and that will give us an eyelid. I think that's the way to do it, because normally with a human character you'd add an eyeball, but big anime eyes, they don't really work with eyeballs. And I'm only planning to do a basic pose, so I'm not thinking of making it perfectly animatable with the pupils can move around and stuff. I can just paint the texture into the pose that I want. Bit of a cheat, but it will mean that the character serves the purpose, rather than trying to over-engineer the character to be potentially able to serve a purpose that I'm not planning to use it for. Sometimes it's good just practice to do that, to have a fully capable character. It wouldn't take much to sort of convert what I would be doing into something a bit more usable. You could probably have the white of the eye a separate mesh to the colour of the eye, and then you add the colour of the eye to a bone that then tracks to another bone. That should give you a fairly good eye that sort of you can move around and look in different directions. You might also have a bit of luck with like the shrink wrap modifier as well, getting the pupil and the iris to stay on top of the white of the eye. Yeah, I'd probably turn off shadow casting for the iris, and then that would make it so that the white doesn't receive the shadow from it. That's how I would do it, at least. Now with the eye, they're generally... it's tricky because it's anime. The back corners tend to come further back, and the in corners tend to go further in, but it being an anime eye, I think it's just sort of better that it's more flat to the head, and then we model the head around it to match. Maybe bring this in. So what I will normally do for an eye, make sure it's generally the right shape. for these anime eyes. And the extrude back, and it will extrude along the normal. And then we extrude back out, and just come out a little bit further. I might not come out that little bit further this time though. I might leave it a little bit behind. So that's the eyeball. And with that front bit selected, I'll do a Control plus, then do P, separate by selection. So now that is a separate model. And then that's all separated. And then we can actually just Control J and rejoin that. And now, if I do an L over that polygon, we've actually got a separated thing. You can tear the vertices. It's a little bit tricky to get that to work correctly. So that little technique there gets the job done. Now next we want to probably install a mouth. I'm going to do an edge loop here, and then that will be my edge loop for between the nose and the mouth, I think. I think if we have, yeah, this edge loop, and then we can slide this up like that. Maybe even soften that a little bit. And then we can try just bringing a vertex out, honestly. And so with that matching the nose profile quite closely, you see just how weird it is to have that pointy nose in 3D. So I would probably bring that in on the Y a bit. So it's a softer nose. It's still sticking out a little bit. Maybe bring it out a tiny bit more. So that it looks good in 3D. It doesn't look out of place, but it's compared to the reference, it's actually not as far out as the reference is showing, which is about here. So something like that. It's close, but it's not quite the same. Because, I mean, with the rest of the reference, I've got the edge of the head along this black line. But on this, we're sort of still inside part of the pink. Being an anime face or a manga face, I don't want to bring this angle back in too much. So I won't. And then we can select probably these 3 polygons here. Extrude, scale, put the mouth into place, scale these vertices together. Oh. Nope. Nope, keep pressing E. Okay, so by scaling those vertices together, it makes them easier to sort of be a mouth. It's kind of a bit weird. Okay, so these need to come in here. Need to come in here. Now the mouth is not lining up between the 2 references, so I'm not too worried about that. As long as it looks okay in 3D, which currently it does not. So we need to work on that. I think we'll bring them further forwards. We'll add in an edge loop. Bring these forwards in the X. Bring them out to about there. I might try just... No, that's not going to do that. Select these, grow, going to... Okay, let's select these and select these. Yeah. And then Q, smooth a few times. Scale it up. You know, I think the problem I'm having. Can't go back that far, that's fine. We'll rebuild this part of the face. Oh, want to make sure these are polygons. If, there we go. So, the problem I'm having currently is, first of all, this mouth is really high and this is low, so let's think about it that way. I need to just use these 2 polygons. So what's going on there? Is that just the back of the head? It is, okay. And that will be plenty. Yeah, generally the corner of the eye tends to be part of the mouth. So I think that's where, this being an anime character, its proportions are all off and not the same as a normal character, it's throwing me off a little bit. Yeah, that's already not creating a massive mess on the face, so that's good. I do want to be able to match the reference as far as the size of his mouth goes in most views. I just want to start moving these polygons into positions that have more smoothness to them, I think. Now I will delete the faces. Actually, if we just select these 2 edges and just delete those edges, then we've got a gap in the mouth that looks right. Now what I'm seeing that I'm not liking is this polygon here is huge. So I definitely want to bring sort of the cheek part forwards and in. Probably bring that nose down a bit. It's hard to see exactly where it should be. I mean, in the front reference, which is where I've got the eyes lined up, the mouth lined up, the nose, point of the nose should be about there, which is much lower than the side reference. So we can bring this down to get that shape a bit closer. I think I want to bring these back a bit. And at this point I'm sort of looking at how the model is coming together, how the polygons are sort of fitting together. If I feel like there's any gaps, I feel like there's a gap here. I'm going to try, first thing I'm going to do is try sliding these polygons in. Maybe leave that one there to keep the eye shape, and that's just made things look really weird. So then the next option is obviously to add in another edge loop there. That feels a bit closer. Now I did want the mouth to be quite versatile. With the amount of polygons that we've got, it's going to work, excuse me, some of the time. It's not going to work all of the time. So I think because you want to be able to add in a little bit of shape, because at the moment would have a fairly straight line, you can add a little bit of curve to it, but sometimes you want more shape, especially to the mouth. I think we're going to add a loop down the middle there, one into there and one into there. That gives us quite a few more points to work with, and that allows you to do more interesting shapes with the mouth. Not to a point where it's overwhelming and hard and scary, but what that has done is added quite a bit of stuff to the rest of the model. So we can start shaping things. And generally my rule of adding an edge loop is all of the new vertices need to be moved. Because that default midpoint is just, it's not adding anything. It's creating it's allowing the straight line that was already there to still be a straight line, versus making a bit of a curve or something like that, which is obviously more important for the model. Now I will scale these points together again, create a nice thin mouth. I might pull these out a little bit and just allow the rest of it to bring the rest out a little bit at a time until it sort of gets that shape in. And these 2 points need to come in a little, and then his cheekbones can sort of be more prominent there if that's what you need. I'm not sure that I need so much just the cheekbones to be prominent, just a sort of a generally softer, rounder face. Now for the mouth, if I do want to do interesting mouth shapes and stuff, obviously you need an interior. So it's nice to come back a little bit to give the lips thickness. And then extrude, scale on the Z. Just let it go crazy, so you can pull these up and out of the way. And go into front view, bring this back a little bit as well. And that's sort of creating the inside of the cheek. And then I would extrude once more, probably scale in the Z, bring it in on the X. Probably going to rotate that a bit actually on the side, bring it back a little bit, and then extrude all the way back to create a mouth cavity. This feels quite small for a mouth cavity, so we'll just fill in these polygons, and I don't need to add any extra edges to that. Sometimes if you've got, say, only 3 vertices here, you might need to add an edge loop and create stuff there. This is an area that won't generally get much, won't be seen very much, so generally you just want a colour on it and it will look fine. Generally a dark reddish sort of colour, because it's the inside of a mouth. But this also gives us an area to sort of define as the inside of the mouth where the teeth and the tongue goes. We can see that stuff is actually poking through there, so bring that back a little bit. Might bring this top bit forwards a bit more. And I'm just going to make sure that we're sort of trying to get the shape of the character looking a bit closer. Okay. If I shade smooth, that's going to look weird. Let's try doing a Control 2. Yeah, so that looks like a general anime sort of character, fairly androgynous. fairly lacking in the nose department, so I might have to actually select, say, these polygons, extrude out, scale down, just to maintain that nose, which is now very square. I might even turn that into a circle, scale that down. And then we've got a bit of control over the shape and size of that nose. So a little bit of definition there helps. Even though it's an anime character, I am feeling like I want to bring some of these vertices back a little bit. Just so that you can see that there is a difference between the lip and the nose. We've got a fairly sharp ridge happening there. I think it's caused by these vertices. Yeah, okay. So that's starting to look a bit closer to what I'm imagining. Might bring these vertices back and out a little bit. So that's fairly simple looking nose. Now the head is looking a bit wonky. So I think I want to bring these out forwards a little bit. I'm just sort of looking at areas where I'm just looking at how the shading is changing across the model, focusing on different areas, seeing what's happening. I can see that the light is catching sort of under here, or there's a shadow here. So that tells me that the it's a bit concave there, and this vertex is pointing in a bit, so we bring that out. Might bring this one out a little bit as well. Might bring that up. And that's reduced that quite a lot. It's looking nice and smooth. We probably want to actually have an edge loop much closer to the lips as well, to make them look more solid. Yeah, depending on the character, this sort of polygon here is where the cheekbone's going to be. So you can really define that by pulling it out and being all like, oh, well, cheekboney. Almost looks skeletal when I do that. Why are you making Pokemon stuff? Might Keeper, that is a fantastic question. I like Pokemon. It's popular, so people know what to expect. Yeah, it's just it's a fun subject, and there's lots of subjects to work with. So there's a lot of varying characters, from human characters to weird monster characters. My son really wants me to make a Charizard, so I think that will be a model that I tackle soon. Whether or not I do it on stream, I'm not sure. But yeah, it's just a subject that I enjoy. I always have enjoyed Pokemon. I'm not like a mega fan or anything like that, but I like to get the games when they come out and play through a little bit. And it's a franchise I can enjoy with my kids as well, so that's nice. Yeah, no, it's just a subject that I like. You know, it's about as far as the thought process really goes. And I did want to have a subject matter that I can work on a lot, and have be able to pick lots of subjects from. So having a library of Pokemon makes that more possible. Just going to hide that And reinforce this edge as well. Well, that is not... We've got a gap between the eye and the socket here, so I think it's even possible that this is because of the changes that I made to the model. So let's just let's hide that for a moment. Bring this up a bit. Bring this up a bit.
I'm curious about that chat actually.
What?
Why are you making Pokemon stuff one?
Why?
Are they an old fan and they're like, this is out of your wheelhouse? This is different?
I don't know.
Yeah. Really good question though.
Very observant.
Yeah, no, I like
Charizard for the win. Dragons are awesome. That is
Well,
very true.
Yes, I agree.
There are a lot of dragon-like looking Pokemon as well.
Charizard's the best one.
Charizard, Aerodactyl, Dragonite in the first generation. You got the legendary birds that are kind of dragony. And then, I mean, I think each generation has had one or two Pokemon that look like big scary lizards with wings. Some of them, I think, what's he called? Salamence is just a big fatty with little dinky wings. It's quite funny.
I like Dragfee. He looks like the never-ending
Yeah,
story.
that's a cool idea actually, Animarium. I could absolutely make a Charizard and then use that as a base model to do all the extra bits that do become a Mega Charizard. I don't think any of the models. Oh, Mewtwo. Wait, did I model Mewtwo?
No, you modelled Mew.
I modelled Mew. What did I model last week? Can't remember. Lugia.
Oh, Lugia.
That's right. I think I was looking at modelling Mewtwo. I decided not to for some reason.
You have modelled Pikachu.
Yeah, I don't think Pikachu's got a Mega.
No, but there are different versions of Pikachu.
Oh yeah, I mean I could do Fat Pikachu.
Yeah.
I could do more anime specific Pikachu, which is kind of what I was aiming for with the one that I made. Just struggling with this eye right now. It's hard because there's not a limit selection thing other than to move it into a separate object. So I have to make an adjustment, hide it, make an adjustment, reveal it. Okay, that has solved that issue. I do want to add in at least an edge loop there and an edge loop there, and that has made it very sharp. So let's delete that one, I think, and then I mean it's one of those things where until you try to animate it, it's not going to be clear. That looks okay. That looks eyelidy. Obviously it's not closed all the way. You'd want to go to a weird rendered view. You'd add in shape keys to go. Oh yeah, you can go further. There you go. Now his eyes are closed. With eyelids, I mean, if you want it to be realistic, oh, you wouldn't want it to be realistic. You'd close them like that. You'd possibly even, my other thought was, you'd select the outer edge loop as well. That looks actually much better. And then you can get really close and then make funny expressions with the eyelids, like they have in animes, where they have like, yeah, that sort of stuff. Wondering if a loop around the outside would help with that. Let's just mess around and test a few things, eh? So why not? My model, I can if I like. Yeah, that's even better actually. Yeah, so with a realistic head, the when you close your eyes, only the top lid moves. So when I'm blinking, if you see, oh, I'll get close. Suddenly my eyes are really wide open. Look at the camera, and if I blink, open my eyes and blink. It's really hard to tell if you can see that in the camera. The top lids are doing 95% of the work. Your bottom lids, depending on the expression, will scrunch up a little bit because you've got muscles like in your cheeks, so when you squint and stuff, your eyelids will just be pushed up a little bit anyway. But it's an anime character, and when you look at the expressions that are like over here, that's his eyes are closing almost halfway, and then they're sort of curving down. So it's sort of.
Are you trying to tell me that anime characters are not real?
I'm trying to tell you that anime characters are not realistic.
What about that movie that you watched earlier today?
Oh, I'm sorry, it was
That's not real?
It wasn't, no.
I'm so upset.
Now we can probably soften. Where are we going? Probably, yeah. If I bring these in on the Y. Ooh. Okay, let's bring this in on the Y. I think. Or let's edge slide it. There we go. And then edge slide this one back as well. And then double check by selecting both of them and scaling down. Yeah, so that still covers the eyelid. And you can do, like, just this scaling is not a regular shape key that you would make for your character anyway. So you can make shape keys that will conform to that shape that you want. But I'm fairly happy with the shape that we've got now on the head. Without spending too much time fussing over details. How are we for time? Yeah, we're at 1 hour and 40, so I don't want to fuss too much. It's really not perfect. It's the shape of the head is quite off because I haven't been focusing too much on that. I'll make some minor edits right now whilst I'm talking about how I'm being too fussy or not fussy enough. And I will just try to smooth things out a little bit, especially around the back where it has gotten quite flat. We might bring it out a little bit. Yeah, that looks okay. Still a little bit pointy, but I could it'll take a little bit more time than I have right now just to fix that up. But that's an anime sort of head that's sort of proportioned to look like Ash. What is going on here? Let's delete these two vertices there. They're not doing anything. Yep, that's a bit better. Okay. Now we do want an ear. I'm not going to do a super complicated ear. It looks like it's coming off roughly here. Of course, in that reference, it's further up. Let's go with the slightly higher one, I think. Bring these polygons down a little bit. Yeah, so we'll extrude, scale, and then just try to line so the bottom of the ear hangs down a little bit further and the top of the ear comes up quite a bit more. So when I'm placing where this structure is, I'm sort of, the bottom of the ear comes down a little bit, top of the ear comes up more. So we got that. Oh, don't want that. So then we want to scale this in and just trying to think, how do I model an ear? Make space for it. for starters. I think, yeah, I think I know what I'll do, because I'm a wild, crazy man. I'm going to rotate that, bring it out, extrude out, maybe rotate back a little bit that way. Bring that out to the general width of the ear. Take that top polygon, extrude that up. That bottom polygon, extrude that down. And then we can take the whole back portion, extrude that out. That will give us a very rough template to work from. His ears do not stick out that much at all. So we can bring this back in a little bit. We could even... No, we won't. Just thinking about making it into a circle using the loop tools. We just want to make it sort of a general ear shape. That is not super detailed. The back, I think, needs to... where it connects... it needs to come... the front needs to come this way a bit. And then this polygon needs messing with, or this vertice. This one here. Just needs pulling into a better position. It is very not happy with what it's having to deal with, I think. Why is that connected there? Because that all extruded up. I suppose that would be part of that up. So if I do that, pull it back that way. Yeah! I think I'm going to select... If I select these, it will actually do the whole thing. And bring that back just to create some thickness. For a very basic low detail ear, this has gone fine. Be wary about having it too square, so I'll just shape it a little bit to reduce the squareness. Now the bottom of the ear should be further in. Top of the ear sort of further out, and I think this sort of portion needs to come in as well. Yeah, it's probably a bit too big. I'll bring that in. That's fine. Now it's a little bit pinchy at where it's connecting. I mean, whatever's going on here, it's probably part of the cause. There we go, it's a bit better. Yeah, it's a very pinched area. There we go. Yeah, that's okay. Now, obviously that is a really bad polygon. If this was an area that was going to deform a lot, I would work on that and move things around, change the positions of stuff, try very hard to get that looking nothing like what it does now. But it's the ear, so the ear doesn't move much at all in general, so we can live without it. So I'm just going to get that profile looking a bit closer. Maybe come up a little bit. Look, that will do. We have an ear. I just need a second to blow my nose. Give me uno momento, por favor. I can breathe. Breath is nice. Okay. Now let's get I think we should try and get the hair and the hat on his head. I don't know how much. It's going to take a lot of effort to get it looking good. So just thinking about how I will approach the subject. So the top of the hat is rounded, and then it's sort of fairly straight down, and then it's got a little peak coming off. So I think for that, if we started off from, for example, a cube that we have subdivided twice, we apply the subdivision. We then delete at least the bottom of it, scale it down, bring it up. Scale it up roughly there, flatten it in the Z. That's pretty close. Now that's too far. So I'm just looking at where the silhouette's lining up. I think if we SY, that's lining up closer. And then we select this bottom edge. So I'll move that up a bit. In the front view, we will S and X. And then extrude on the Z, straight down. That's done quite well. Front of the cap is a bit more forwards, and it has the peak on it as well. Now, I've not modelled cap before, so I'm thinking do something like that. That's the shape of a cap. That's lovely. Go to front view, and that cap is, then the peak is going up rather than down. So I think we want to bring this front edge down a bit, and then bring this extruded edge up. Something like that. This is definitely one of those cases of the front view and the side view not matching at all. Because in the front view it's coming up, in the side view it's going down. So pick which one you like, I guess. I think I will pick the going down one. Try to match that angle. Maybe bring this up a little bit. And then get that shape a bit nicer. We need to mirror. So we add in a mirror. Like that. Turn on clipping. Select those middle vertices because they're clearly not exactly right. If I go X and then, oh no, just moving them actually is enough to, excuse me, align them up to the middle. Now that leaves lots of space for the hair. What we will also do is add a solidify modifier. And that just adds a bit of thickness. It's hard to tell, because in this 3/4 view it's going down. So maybe you're right, yeah, maybe that's the... where the... Oh, cannot see what's going on. So maybe that's where the... this part of the cap should be. And then it sort of comes down like that. Irregardless of how you think it should go. Because this, I mean, so the things I'm seeing that are different is this here is a very slight angle, and then this here is a very big angle. So it's tough to tell exactly what the reference is trying to tell you. But I think you're right on that one. Now, if we do I'll show you what I think is, what I know is going to happen is this is going to go bleh. So we go subdivision surface, it goes bleh, and it's all one thing. So we will reinforce this edge here, so that it's not doing that. I think that's the only edge I really want to reinforce. His cap does have the little thing in the back, so we can do that as well. I'll probably select these two, extrude and scale, to sort of try and match the size of that hole. Looks like it comes in a little bit more there. Maybe do something like that. And then extrude in. It's not very thick though, is it? So extrude in, we'll do an edge loop there. Obviously the solidify modifier is not helping in this instance. If we can select the correct vertices or faces, delete those faces, then I think solidify might help. Yeah. Obviously it's very rounded, so we would add in an edge loop, not there, here. And an edge loop here, just square that off. It does look like a big hole compared to the reference though. It's not quite as big there. So we'll Control 1 to go to the back view. Let's make sure I've not got anything else selected. No, I don't. And bring that, excuse me, bring that in there. I think I need to bring more. Let's slide that in. Let's slide that in. Let's slide that. Ooh. Then we can bring this corner in, I think. It won't deform the hat too much. Yeah. Let's just leave it at that, eh? Now that edge lip that I just added has actually added a bit of definition in some good places. Don't really want it here though. So I might remember that I'm using Solidify and do something like that. Oh, excuse me. Oh, comes in 3. That third one was hiding. Okay. Look, that's looking okay. Let's not fuss. Now we want to add hair. We want to add big anime hair that sticks out and is wild. We don't want quite this sticky out because he's wearing his hat and the rest of it. So I think it might be a matter of, I'm thinking of adding a couple of cubes and trying to sort of get the shape right. Because it's kind of, it's sort of swept back but also and out. So it goes back behind his ear and is pointy at the back. But it's also swept out. Just trying to think of the best way to approach. There really isn't much of a way to approach this. So let's hide the hat for now. I'm going to add in a...
Sorry.
You right?
Yeah. Just did a weird hiccup thing.
Ah.
It was loud.
I'm going to add in a cube. Rotate it. And then... So that big chunk of hair there is like that. Obviously in the side view it is more towards the back. And then this is back there. Something like this. And then if we duplicate that, can rotate it a bit, maybe scale it, bring it up to sort of match that one. Rotate it around the back a bit. And we're just creating some wacky shapes that we can then merge together. Which I think might be the go. I'm not 100% sure. Because we would want these to be points of hair, not blocks of hair. So something a bit more like that. That's actually starting to look like it's on purpose. Much more than I was expecting it to, so I'll keep going with this. So this actually should come out about there. Okay, about there, that about there. If I add a, we'll add a mirror modifier for now. And, oh, you know what I should do? Okay, let's select the head. And select everything that will definitely be dark and covered with hair. So that's kind of pushing it, I think. So I think we would select this, select that. I will select just here because he's got a little bit of hair going in front of the ear. Nope. Nope. That one. And that one. And that one. I think that's pretty much. I might deselect just the bottom of the head. And then Shift D, P to separate by selection. So then we've got a separate model here. And we can turn the subdivision off. And we can then now let's try just hiding that cube for now. And let's try adding bits where the hair is coming out of. That's kind of coming out of there and doing that. And then going back quite far. Maybe that structure there is not the same as that structure there. Or not quite. Yeah, like, oh, there's a few of them in different cartoons, honestly. I'm thinking the guy from Mega Man.
That would be Mega Man.
Sorry?
That would be Mega Man.
No, there's an evil scientist that creates... Well, not evil. There's a scientist that creates Mega Man. Nice try, smartass.
No, I just caught the end of it. And you were like, oh yeah, there's lots of them in anime. Like the guy from Mega Man. I'm like, yeah, Mega Man.
I feel like that's too many polygons there. One of those tricky parts that it's a very simple shape and it's being frustrating. So maybe let's try. So we will have this as like a base model that is black basically over the top of the hair. We could even like extrude it in a little bit to create a bit of dimensionality to it. But we'll just get it so that it closely matches the reference a bit. Possibly go without that and just bring that down there so that it's all black. We might need to add in an edge loop there or something. Yeah. Well, that's what the model is, so. And so then we've got a dark base from which to work from. Rather than trying to try and make something happen, we will make the make it in a more layered fashion, I think is the term that I'm working for. So we got that. So then if we add in a plane, I could even do, I know that people work with curves, and that's actually, yeah, let's do curves. Let's add in a Bezier curve. I think Bezier is the right one. Let's see. Geometry. Extrude. Offset. No. Bevel. There we go. Okay. So you also want a taper object. No, I don't want. Right, so that's this part. Yeah. Okay, beautiful. So that will just lower that resolution. Okay. A taper object, which I've not really done before, but let's try adding a plane and
I'm going to bed.
okay. Love you. I just want to play with this a little bit. Oh, there it is. So that's not the kind of object that you want to be tapering. This is one of those things that I should have prepared beforehand, but didn't really know that I was going to need to. It's alright. The curve. Ooh. Taper. Geometry, taper objects, so offset, extrude. Taper is applied. Only the first curve in a taper object is evaluated, even if you have several separated segments. So I think it needs to be a curve. Could possibly be, so taper object, be via circle, which they've then done weird stuff with. Okay, so this is what I'm seeing. Let's learn together. So we can do another Bezier curve, go into wireframe, and then if we choose that to be the taper object, oh, did we select it? No, we didn't. There we go, Bezier curve. Map the effect of the taper object to the beveled part of the curve. Maybe. Not sure. But now if I select this and move it around, it should change the... Nope. Of course not. Oh wait. Oh, I select... Okay. Let's be clever. Ah! That's done something. Okay. Lovely. So it's given us this. shape that we can work with. Cool. Not 100% sure how this is happening. If I go into a 3D view. Ah, okay, so it's doing it in 3D. That's fun. So I want to probably fill the caps. So then we shouldn't be able to see stuff through that, but we can. That's fine. And then this. Generally the hair is quite what's the word? Not sure. It's quite uniform and it's a point. It's not so much a shape that's curving nicely. It's not a swoop. It's a point. If I move this into object mode, it doesn't change the shape. Beautiful. So I can move that out of the way and then sort of GY. Yeah. That's a bit closer. Okay, that looks like a segment of Ash's hair, I think. So then we can just clone these, go into edit mode, change the shape of it where I want it to go, and that will be a much easier workflow than trying to get all the polygons to behave. Now, where are we at? We're at 2 hours and 15 minutes, so I think I'll put my limit at 3 hours, so that gets me to basically midnight. We'll see how far we've gotten there. I suspect we're not going to have time to do much detailing on the rest of the clothing, so we'll aim to get the shapes of the hair in fairly quickly. We'll chuck a bunch in, and then see how that's looking. Try not to make too many edits. We'll just duplicate a whole bunch and then pull a few points out so that it sort of looks spiky. We'll aim to get hands roughed in, I think. And maybe like a shirt. Like it's not really it's like a jacket, but it's also like a dress shirt. It's an odd over thing that he's wearing. It's also like a vest that's over a dress shirt, but I don't think that's... I think it's one piece of clothing on the outside with the collar. I think if we can get a shirt-looking thing on, he's got roughly sneakery-looking things on. Maybe add a little bit of detail around where the shoes change. And some handy looking hands. If we can get that done, we will have a fairly Ash looking character. Let's start moving some hair into position. So that's fine. I think if I just do a bunch of duplicates, rotate them around, scale a little bit here and there, so that one's basically there, and then Shift D, rotate, scale that one quite up a bit, and maybe rotate and bring it forwards almost. Doggo, catto. Please be nice to each other. So if I look down them, I can just sort of rotate them around to create a sort of hairline around the back, I guess. Add another one in there. It's quite small. So then we start looking in 3 dimensions as well. And there should be... that's a very good question, Domingos. I guess we'll see how far we get. We'll make that decision at the end of the stream. I might just do a... because I've got... excuse me. I've got a video recorded of some texturing. I think I've got 2 recorded now, actually. And I've got a 3rd one I need to do for models that I made on stream that I didn't get around to texturing. So if we can get most of the way, I will do a separate video on finishing the model, if it's not too much work. I might take a copy of the file and spend some time on it and see how long it takes me to do, and then I can just repeat that process either in a half an hour to an hour long video excuse me, or bring it back on stream and then keep going. I'm quite happy to do a multi-stream project. That's not a problem to me. We might bring this curve. So that's one of the powerful things of actually using curves. We can move them into places where we want them. And so, Shift D, sort of bring stuff in. And then he's got bits like sticking out from under his cap. I think that's what I was trying to do here. So if I do that and then rotate like that, that will start to look like that part of the hairline. I think this is absolutely one of those parts where it's just going to look bad until it looks complete. We'll just duplicate these around that hairline. Try and get the enough of that in. And then we can always come into edit mode on each of these. Some of the bits of hair are a bit unruly, so they might stick up. I do think I want to bring this forward here and sort of create a perimeter of hair, I guess, that we can then add some of these big chunky ones to. Maybe scale it down a bit though. Duplicate these, move them up and across. Maybe duplicate some of these, move them down, scale them up a bit. Move this one over here. Just try to keep it organized but disorganized on purpose. Why don't we select like these 3. We'll we'll select some of these that are down here, move them up there to fill in this gap. That is currently about there. So if we then had named all of our objects properly. There we go. So he's starting to look okay. And if we add this guy in, if we do, let's chuck on some very basic colors. You can do viewport display. We do a, is that changing? No, it's not. Okay. Let's just change the materials. So we go new. Call this one skin. Oh. So we change that to a slightly sort of a peach sort of color, something like that. We'll go to material review. So we got a peach looking dude. Turn down the specular of that. And then we'll select that hair helmet thing. Create a new material for that. Call it hair. And his hair is pretty much black. So if we make that black, not very specular, a little bit more roughness. And then that needs to be subdivision surfaced. And that does not look good. Okay. Think so if we select all, extrude, scale down, that should, is it bringing it in on the X? It is. Beautiful. Give us a bit of a thing, and then we can Control I to invert that selection, scale that up a little bit just to bring it out. Now I do want to it's one of those things that I typically avoid if I'm trying to do hair. I don't know what my solution normally is really. Mess with it until it sort of starts to look right. That's all we can do. So then we've got that sort of skull cap. So we go back to there. It's black. Beautiful. Let's hide the head. Hide the cap. That's a weird looking thing. Let's select everything. Deselect that. Okay. Hide that. Select everything. Then I'm going to do B and middle click just over that top bit there. And then select it. There we go. Shift select it. And we go. Is it a right click thing now? No. Link. Is it link? Materials. And then they all have it. So then we can unhide the cube and that one and that one. Oh, no, not that one. Oh my god. That one. So that looks kind of like there's black hair that's pointy and, you know, sticking out. I'd probably move this one down to not be intersecting with the cap. Same with that one and this one. Obviously, I think it just needs more. And it's one of those things that you can just keep adding more to. So we can just go, there's more there. And there's more there. You know, maybe this one's too big in this area, so we bring that down, and then, you know, there's more there, and there's more there. And the more that you add, the better it's going to look, because it's just going to be, you know, wacky time. You could do probably a portion of it with particle distribution, or even, because now we're in 2.92, using geometry nodes and getting lots of cool geometry node action in to distribute the hair pieces around. So that's, that's fairly close. Might move that there. So he's got hair just sticking out all over the place. It feels way too shiny still. So let's turn specular. Oh, okay. We want a tiny little bit of specular just to get the little highlights. Yeah, that looks okay. Maybe increase the roughness to just about 9, and that will get us roughly there. Cool. Okay, so we've got hairish looking thing going on. I'd love to see what other solutions look like. I think that's something where I would honestly, yes, I am actually pretty much agree with you. I think there should be fewer but probably bigger, and sort of a generally more smooth transition. Yeah, I mean it's a matter of if it doesn't look full, it's going to look bad. It will look better having too many than it will looking having too few. But yeah, as I was saying, this is definitely a subject where you would simply want to look at other 3D models and how other people have solved this same problem. I haven't done that yet. I think I will make that sort of my homework for this week, as just putting that hair in took way longer than I expected. But yeah, for even just look up Ash character model and just have a look at the way that other people, like even if you're looking at the final thing and not seeing the method, you can sort of work backwards from how they've got it placed to how they would maybe have what techniques they might have used or how they could have created that model. It's very much a tricky thing to get right. But he looks okay. It looks very busy, but also if you took out, like, say these and hid them, no, it just looks empty. So you can't win. And the point of having the black skull cap is not to fill in the big gaps, it's to fill in the little gaps that are sort of between all of these. Like here it's looking really sparse when you look at it dead on. So, yeah, one of those subjects where more study is simply required in order for it to look good. In fact, we've hidden his ear, so let's unhide that. Because his ears are definitely not covered by the hair, and I think that might help sell what we're trying to do here. Okay, so let's get a little bit of detail in these legs. We haven't done any joints, so let's add a loop cut to the top and bottom of the leg. And then I think what I've actually been doing lately is bevel that midpoint. And then we can merge at center the vertices that are around the back. And then add in an edge loop there to create quads. Bring that out just a little bit. And just tidy things up a bit. Make it so that the leg can work. So now we've got a decent amount of loops in to make that happen. The shoes and the pants sort of meet like this. So if we sort of increase that there, maybe add another edge loop there to do this. An edge loop there and an edge loop there, and scale that in, and it sort of looks like the pants are puffing up, and maybe bring this down a bit. Now in the front view that looks way too full on. We'll scale all this down in the X. Now if we do this, add an edge loop there, and then take the loop of polygons there. We might move them or scale in the X a little bit, then scale in the Y, and then extrude that up. And just scale out a little bit, because the pants sort of go. If we're looking here, the pants go tuck into the shoes. Again, that's looking really, really wide. So we might even do something like that. Just shape the shoes a little bit more. Probably add an edge loop to the bottom where the sole should be. You can even sort of do a, if we want an edge, sort of be in there, add a couple more edge loops, scale in a little bit, and then when you do subdivide you get a lip. We need a edge loop. Oh. So we need to select all these faces on the bottom and extrude, and that creates that flat bottom. So just a little bit of detail, not a lot, just to get the rough look of how things should be. You might end up completely separating and modeling the shoes as a separate object. I'm not going to worry about that. I think we should model the general shape of the foot in though, because that makes a big difference, and it's actually quite easy to do. So if we select these, move them along the X, just bring them in a little bit, and then select these, move them out on the X. The toe, bring that sort of more sort of in shape with how the toe of a foot will be anyway. Just that little bit just adds it, turns it into a more of a thing that's containing a foot rather than a weird round thing that's on top of a on the bottom of a model. Cool. It's still fairly bland looking, but that's fine. That's as much detail as we can afford right now. Let's just turn off that subdivision. Now for the hand, I was thinking about it. Let's have a look. So it's important to count, because when you're doing a cartoon character, even if it is anime, sometimes the character has 3 fingers and a thumb. Sometimes they've got 4 fingers and a thumb. Now, obviously, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can very quickly confirm that Ash has 5 fingers. Now, I was thinking about how to approach this earlier, and I'm thinking I want to add in a cube. Ooh, it's huge. Scale it down. Turn off clipping for a second. Let's come on, go to front view, please. There we go. Scale that right down. Now, if that's roughly the size of his hand, then if I do something like that, we can actually get fairly close to the size of the fingers. We would want a little bit smaller. And then length of a finger is roughly the same length as the hand. So if we go S and then Z, so fingers are about this long, and then Shift D. Now the middle finger, looking at proportions a lot lately. Your fingers, well, my fingers are the same length. The 3 middle fingers are the same length. They're just, there's a curve to where they're placed on the hand. It's hard to, it's not super noticeable, but if you see here, it's actually a curve. It's not a straight line. If it was a straight line, this middle finger would be, the bottom of it would be further down. But if I take the length of that finger, compare it to the length of that finger, it's the same. Compare it to the length of that finger, it's pretty much the same. Ring finger's a tiny bit smaller. Little finger is definitely smaller, but the 3 middle fingers are, they're actually fairly close. My ring finger is definitely slimmer, and I think it's a hair shorter. So I will incorporate that. But I'll just scale it down a little bit. So that'll get it thinner and shorter. And then little finger is definitely a bit shorter. I mean, what's that difference? I don't know. A little bit. And then yes, so we'll move these fingers down and out of the way a little bit. And you've actually got that sort of curve here in this reference. So we'll try and make use of that. Ugh. So the middle finger is this one, so we actually want that one to be out further. We've got the ring finger, and we've got the little pinky finger as well. Something like that. It's not a big, really round curve, but it's definitely something that should be taken into account. And then if we try and line up each of these fingers with sort of where they should go, about there. About there. Move. Now that's quite spread out, so I probably want to reduce that a bit. It's painful having your hand like that. Like a bit more like that. I'm just using L to select the different parts. And then, so between each finger, I don't just want one, or do I? Because right now we can connect that and it won't be an issue. So let's connect the easy way for right now, I think. We want the fingers are fairly, they're little tubes, they're not super defined, especially for a cartoon character. So I'm just going to scale in the ends of the hand and get them close. So what I was thinking was having at least extra polygons between the fingers. That will create more work than we have time for right now, as far as a hand that doesn't have a million edges coming off it into the wrist. It can be a little bit of work working on reducing the polygons down to a workable sort of amount. Okay, so let's bring the back of the hand in. Yeah, that looks okay. So I think I'm just going to use the snapping, I think, and then we will merge or remove doubles afterwards. It's not a perfect solution. For a low detail cartoon character, it's fine. Okay. Merge by distance, thank you. Now it looks like I think there are polygons in here, so I will erase the only faces. Just do it one at a time because it makes sure that it works the way that you want it to work. Now hands generally have a bit that comes out, a bit that goes in, a bit that comes out. So bring that out on the X. Bring this out on the X. And then bring the whole thing out on the X. And that's not all the same normals. Oh, I think we've got some shade smooth, some not. Okay. Yeah, okay. Beautiful. So I'll add 2 loop cuts to each finger. Now, it would have been very wise, now that I think about it, to add, to do the detail of the finger and then duplicate the finger. But we're rebels, so let's... And that will do it. So I've just selected... Let's select... So we're going to want to go to edge mode and select the 3 edges, not including the back one. And I think that... no. Okay. So let's select all of these front edges. If you can. Okay, so I've got all of those selected. And then Control B. Create a bevel. I don't think I want it to be that big, honestly. Something like that. Oh, you can adjust. Yeah, I want that to come further back. And I'm not going to fiddle with those settings too much. But what we can do is come into vertice mode and just bring all of these extra vertices back in the X. Now that will create fingers that can bend. Ideally, you would probably also have a edge along here. That will allow the knuckle to hold its shape. Nope. You might even scale those in a little bit. So in vertice mode, I'm just left clicking on each edge, and it selects a continuous loop, which is only the 2 vertices that are there. And now when we go to subdivide, it looks really bad. Okay, let's undo that. Control 2. Ooh. It's looking quite lumpy. It needs, honestly, what it needs is more form to the fingers. So something like this, and then something like that goes all the way around as well. I haven't modeled that in. So for now, I think the safest thing to do, for the sake of time, is just to have them like that. And then we'll have little tube fingers, and that's fine. Yeah, let's make sure that we've got the tube fingers, and then we can work from there. Now, a thumb is tricky. I would honestly extrude that out, and that could become the thumb. Maybe that's too far down, so maybe here. Nope. Loop tool, circle. So what this stream is telling me tonight, I need to reinvest some time in making some humanoid characters that aren't very simple Pokemon characters, because the Pokemon are way easier than this. And this was all a process that I used to be much more comfortable with. And it's just simply I haven't had the time to focus on any one particular thing. I've been busy having children, unfortunately, and they take up a lot of time. So the time I used to spend just studying how certain things work in 3D modeling, I just haven't had that anymore, but that's fine. That's why I'm getting back into it. So if I want to, and I probably could, if I want to attach this hand to this arm, first of all, I would make sure they lined up better. Rotate that a bit like that, something like this. Okay. I will turn that into a circle. Probably scale it up a bit. Bring these in a little bit. Front view is going to be important as well. Okay. And then we can F3 and bridge. Beautiful. Now if I want to, I can actually remove that edge loop. So now Ash has some hands. Bit wonky looking. I feel like the back of the hands, if I do a proportional editing on that, bring it out in the X just a little bit. Maybe this one as well. Yeah, that's a bit better. Just needed that little bit of curve in the back of the hand. Probably a little bit too far down. Turn off proportional and just bring that up in the Z. Maybe a little bit more. Yeah, about there. Very skinny arms still. Not a fan of that. So let's add in edge loop there. I'm going to add in 2 edge loops there. I'll select this one and just Alt S just to bring that up a little bit. That's better. Ah, yeah, sorry. I didn't see your comment there, I was focused. Yes, I have just rounded out the back of the hand a little bit because it was looking very flat. Thank you. Okay. I think I want more. Yeah, that's going to go through the whole body. I want more edge loops underneath the arm going vertically. I think that's something I should have worried about earlier on. That's okay. So we're at, okay, 250. Let's... Okay, so we want the... he's got gloves on, so we'll do a little wrist thing that is about that thick. Extrude that out, scale it up, scale Shift Z, and that should bring it up. So that excludes the Z axis. We can just make that how we want it to look. Add in an edge loop on the inside. Cool. And then for the jacket situation, we will basically just be duplicating part of the body. So we'll duplicate probably that as well, up to around there, and then we can extrude out and make a collar and stuff. Cool. So Shift D. I will probably separate this by selection and have it as a separate object that I can work on. Right now there's a lot of Z fighting, which is where there's two polygons in the same place. So first of all, we're probably just going to want to Alt S, scale up. We've got clipping turned off currently, so that's okay. So we can, I think I would delete this row of vertices along the front. I'm just focusing on getting the shape right now. So let's rotate that. Okay. This might be actually a good use for the solidify modifier. It being closed, it does not need to be that thick. And then we'll also add in a bevel modifier, and that will look schmick. Lovely. So anime character. Kind of looks like an anime character. I think it's safe to say it currently looks like a knockoff version of Ash. I'm just going to extrude this neck up so that it can start to connect and look like something. Some weird stuff going on there. Let's turn on clipping and select what's here. Move it that way. Move it that way. Bring that in a fair bit because he's an anime character. He doesn't need a big thick neck. No. Something odd going on there. Oh, there's an extra vertex in there. That's what. There we go. Cool. Very basics of the jacket is in. Let's so that collar is high up on the back of his neck, about there. There we go. Make sure clipping is on. Just make sure that's all in the center nicely. And then, yeah, that needs to come in on the Y. And then we want to extrude up and then extrude back down. That will create a fairly simple collar look. Now he has a fairly pointy collar, so if I scale those together, that will get us that. And it sort of sticks out quite a bit. Right, so that's coming out from... Oh. Basically, we want to bring this down. And then sort of bring this forwards, I think. Yeah. And then I just want these two vertices. Nope. Just these two vertices. Thank you. Don't have anything else selected at the back. And I'll just bring this out. Now there is some asymmetry that obviously we're not getting right now. That's just something we could look into, I guess, for after the model has been finalized. You can then apply your mirrors and then get the asymmetry going. His jacket does tend to puff out, especially at the bottom, and it comes down further than here. So I'll actually extrude it and sort of bring it out and try and get the do that. So we just select this, bring this out, just try and get it to be a uniform flaring, I guess. Yeah, nice. Again, it's quite pointy, so we can do a couple of things. I think we'll just do a loop cut there to add some definition and bring the inside of the jacket in a bit. Something like that. And then these. Not that far, about there. He's got like a little button clip thing there that we're obviously not getting the detail of, so that's fine. And now I think because we are now exactly at 3 hours, which was sort of my cut-off point, let's find, start playing nothing. Let's add an edge loop in here. Another one next to it. And then we can add one there, scale it in just a bit, and that will just sort of give us a cut off of the shirt for the pants, and then we'll do the same at where the neck is. So we'll just bring that down. His neckline is a bit higher, so we'll bring that up. Oop. Add in another edge loop close to it. Zoom in, add one there, scale that in, and that's more temporary than it is something you might permanently have on there. You can have it like that if you want to, but for right now, to show that it's a character, his face is looking so bad. I think so for like the fingers, because we've only got tubes of squares. they're tapering off quite a lot. There's not a lot we can do about that other than to add in, say, an edge loop going around here, which then goes around the whole arm and comes back down and goes around the whole hand. And then you would also want edge loops going up and down here. So that one goes through the thumb, that one goes through the whole body, that one also goes through the body down to the knee. So that's why I haven't done that yet. I would probably just model new hands that have got slightly higher polygon counts. I think 8. You either go for 6 or 8 on a finger. 6 if you're not too worried about definition. 8 if you are. I suppose you could go higher if you've got, more detail planned. For right now, they're the right sort of size. They're not really the right sort of shape. They're too thin. So I might even, right now, select the fingers and do an Alt S and just maybe get the next one as well. Yeah, just a little bit more thickness helps. And of course he's wearing fingerless gloves. So then to do that, we'll do the same as the rest of the model. Do that, and then we got a little fingerless thing. It's not the best. It's a method for getting these sort of details in. It's not a detail I would add until a bit later on. Otherwise, you could have a separate mesh for the. You could have a whole hand with a glove over the top, sort of like we've got with the jacket. But that's more different than the glove is to the hand. The glove is very conforming, so I would possibly do some loop cuts like that, and then separate the fingers. Just trying to think. I would probably have a full finger with a glove model, but not a palm model underneath the glove. I think that would be the way to get that to look quite good. But I don't have the time for that right now. I need to go to bed because it's late. Yeah, that head is looking much worse now that I've spent some time away from it. The nose area in particular, I think, is letting it down. It's quite square and it's quite stretched. It's really hard to see anything because of that hair right now. So I need to set up like collections, like all these Bezier curves. That needs to go to, if you press M and then new collection, you can call it hair. Okay. So now I can go to the hair collection and hide it. I will move this to the hair collection. I might even move that to the hair collection as well. So now I can actually look at the model. Yeah, it's very square because of the geometry that's here, which isn't much. And then there's this geometry here. So you could even look into selecting that, maybe smoothing the vertices. That's a little better actually. But it has reduced the size of the nose, so I'll bring that back out a little bit. It still looks very much like a smooth, androgynous character rather than Ash. So that likeness is something I need to work on. Again, that could be part of a study in more reference. Some 3D model reference that has been produced by official sources and possibly fan sources. Look at what's making him look like him. He doesn't have eyebrows. That could be a huge... He's got very dark, prominent eyebrows. We haven't put them in. So that could make a pretty big difference. Looking at that, it kind of looks like generic Pokemon trainer. I think he feels a bit skinny, whereas Ash is quite stocky. So maybe that's in the legs as well, where I could, maybe not the shoes, but here. Give him a bit thicker pants. And just, yeah, work on those details. The hat obviously looks silly to the head. So this is sort of a point where you might go, okay, just because he looks this way in 2D, it doesn't mean he's going to look exactly right in 3D. Oh, Jesus, what have I done there? Yeah, that sort of thing. Okay, let's cursor to grid. Shift S. Object, no. Origin to 3D cursor. No. Okay. So I would need to apply the mirror for a while. Okay, we need to set the orange. Okay, put that on the origin and then put it back in object mode. And then what I was trying to do, scale it down a little bit and just sort of move it around. Try and get the hat to look a bit better. Although, is his hat supposed to be too big for his head? Is that part of the character? And it's little details like that that you can sort of move around and try and get to where you want them to be. Because his jacket has like a seam there, you can almost do a visible seam like that. Maybe that would help the look. The more details I get in, the better it looks, but also it kind of doesn't look right. So I'm medium happy with the results of today. I think I'm not sure how much it's worth pursuing this version of this model. It might be worth pursuing a different style. Maybe going for really low poly. That would be fun and interesting. And working more on a textured model, like with where the textures are doing a lot of the work. So a lot of the details come from the textures. Versus a model that's a higher poly model with subdivision surface, and it's just kind of not working together. Yeah, need to study hair. Need to study. I think I should spend some more time with hands and getting those specific edge loops and how they should go together, because I haven't done that in years. But the hair on an anime character is something I thought. You look at it and go, yeah, that's a fairly simple collection of shapes, which it is, but it's also not something that works very well in 3D in the same sort of a few simple shapes. It's okay for now, but yeah, I would want to create a more cohesive looking object rather than a bunch of weird spiky looking doodads. But yeah, otherwise, I think that's going to be it for the stream today. Thanks for tuning in, those of you who have. It's been nice talking to you. And I suppose, small announcement. I've set up a Patreon. which has a few tiers that all have the same rewards. So it's a choose if you'd like to support, which is absolutely not necessary. If you're capable of and would like to encourage more work on 3D models and stuff. Probably not the best example today, but look at the past streams for the last few weeks. They've been quite successful. The final results, at least. I did think that working on a human character might be a bit too much for a stream. This sort of character I would at least spend a whole day on. And so far we've spent 3 hours where I've been also explaining what I'm doing. So it makes it harder to get the details in as far as I would want. I'm moving on from steps and stages of the model before I normally would. And not setting up things as nicely as I would for the next stage. But that's just a sort of a symptom of the method of delivery currently. But yeah, so there is a Patreon. Patreon.com/JJNOA3D. The 3 tiers are there just as options because from a bit of research, there are people that want to support more and are more than happy to chuck a few extra dollars your way. But if you don't have it set up to have that higher amount, then they might not do any. So, the Patreon rewards are set up as the download of the blend file from each stream. So it's basically what I'm doing is creating a library of the blend files from each stream so that people can access that. So if you sometime in the future go, hey, I want to get all those Pokemon models, you will have access to all of them for as long as you are subscribed on Patreon, and you can just pick and choose all the ones that you want to get and then unsubscribe and just pay for the 1 month. I'm more than happy to have people doing that sort of thing. That's not a problem for me. But yeah, so with the models that I am putting up, I am only including in the file stuff that I have the capability of saying I created that. So the models and the textures are in. Things like HDRs are not in. Things like reference images are not in, simply because I've just pulled this image off Google. I don't own the copyright to it, and so I'm not going to distribute it in a fashion that, especially one that includes the exchange of money. So, that's just an option that's there. I would like to have a system where I can have a whole folder that's possibly password protected or something online somewhere that I can update, and then people can just download that whole thing. I haven't found a solution yet that meets my needs. The best solution I have found so far is having Patreon, and I'll do a post each time there's a new video up, and attached to each post is that blend file. And that's so far that's what I have found as a because I was looking at doing it through YouTube, and as far as I can tell, YouTube doesn't have the same post system for members as Patreon does. So I didn't want to set all that up and then have people able to join and there be nothing there and not be able to do anything about it. So I set up the Patreon so that I know that it works and that the files are there, so that if anybody either wants the files or if anybody wants to support the channel and what I'm doing, then everybody has the option to do that. And like I said, all the tiers are just the same rewards, and that's completely on purpose. It's a system that allows people to, if they have deeper pockets and they want to express their appreciation in that fashion, they have the capability to do that in a easier fashion. If you just want to go, hey, here's enough money for a cup of coffee, that's absolutely, that's more than I'm expecting from anyone. So I'm currently happy to have the views, and people interacting and all that sort of stuff. But I'm also aware that I need to spread out a bit more. So I'm doing bits and pieces on other platforms as well, and I want that to be sort of a whole thing, as they say in the old country. Anyway, my voice is starting to go. Enough spooking on me. Thanks for tuning in, as I've said before. Really do appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback throughout this stream, especially. This has been really good. It's nice to have people who are engaged in the process as it happens, because it gives me the ability to be more reflexive and more capable of going, hey, what if you did this? Oh, it's a good idea. Let's try that. And that's a lot of fun. So that's why I enjoy streaming. Anyway, yes, thank you for tuning in. I will see you guys next week. Today I did stream a day early because I'm busy tomorrow afternoon. So I just wanted to make sure I could definitely get this stream out. Normally I would stream Minecraft today on Twitch, but the 3D modeling is more important to me than the Minecraft, so this one takes precedence. So it will be 8 days until the next stream, so it'll be next Saturday. So I'll see you guys then. Thanks again for tuning in, and I will see you next time. See you later.